Let's try that again. Good evening. That's better. We're serving the King. You hear about the thousands, the millions of Bibles that are distributed, the remarkable union of pastors and Gideon businessmen and women that are committed to distributing Bibles, but it all comes down to someone like me. I was raised on the west side of Cleveland, Ohio, 117th Street. My father went to work before the sun came up, and he came home after the sun went down 7 days a week. A Union card-carrying liberal Democrat. He was an atheist. He never set foot in a church, not for a funeral or for a wedding my entire life. When I was at 11 years of age, my mother found herself in the arms of another man and left with my sister and my two brothers, and my father found himself in the arms of a bottle. That same year, I joined a gang. I was arrested for stealing firearms in the 5th grade, stole my first car before I started the 6th grade, and became a ward of the state. At the age of 14, having stabbed a young man, I ended up in Elmira State Reform School and spent my entire high school behind bars. I won't waste your time with it. It's a nightmare no one should live through. I ended up going in the Marine Corps to avoid further time in prison. By the time I was 18, I was in the jungles of Vietnam as a young Marine. And like Reform School, it's a waste of time to talk about. It was another hideous experience that left me violent and unhappy and addicted to drugs and alcohol and pornography, violence and anger. I came back to be spit upon and mistreated by a country that was now in revolt against the war that I had just come back from. And I joined the Weathermen and the Black Panthers and the Underground and went to universities like Kent State and others in the anti-war aggravator. I couldn't understand how people like you could sit by with your suits and go to your churches and not know what was going on in the underbelly of society, because I had never worked a day in my life. My food was provided by the state and then by the federal government, and I was a habitual welfare case. I stole some credit cards from a doctor and went cross-country, got arrested at Lake Tahoe, checked into a club. I wasn't even 20 years old, couldn't grow a beard, but I had already been through med school and they figured it out, and I had to do 4 months in El Dorado County Jail. Pretty sharp of them. I turned 21 in that jail, and I remember my mother saying when I was 14 that I would be in jail or I'd be dead by the time I was 21. I fulfilled her expectations. I was in California, the land of fruits and nuts, so immediately I got out and I began to look for answers. I went to Stephen's Monday night class. I tried Scientology. If there was a cult, I tried it. One of the things I tried, you fast 24 hours and then drink a gallon of grape juice. Now that'll move you. I tried everything but the Bible or church because of the way I was raised. I left that place and was hitchhiking cross country, talked a young girl into dropping out of college and heading with me. We were going to go to the Middle East. We were on our way to Miami to catch a freighter because we knew maybe someplace that had existed for thousands of years instead of America, which was only a couple hundred years old, might have some answers. And we knew there had to be an absolute truth. We couldn't live in a world full of relativism, but crossing out of Alabama into Florida was arrested once again for trespassing. I don't know if it was my shoulder-length hair, the hippie garb, but we found ourselves in one of the nastiest jails I'd ever been in. It was segregated. They separated us Yankees from the Southerners. Well, not wanting to borrow cigarettes off anybody, I would take the butts off the floor at nighttime and roll the tobacco out and make a pile. I would tear pages out of books and roll cigarettes, but Louis L'Amour and Mickey Spillane, they're coarse books and smoke rough. Some of you have done it, huh? I found a book with thin pages. So I was smoking Leviticus. And I started reading the Gospel of John. It's hard to stand amongst pastors and Christians and say, I lived in America and I was 21 and it was the first time I held a Bible. As I read the Gospel of John, I put my Father's face and his fists on the face of God, and I had a hard time believing that God could love me. I did not have a problem with sin. I got the sin part. And December 18th at 7 o'clock at night, I bent my head and with no understanding of theology, only that I was a sinner and I needed God, I cried out and I said, God, please forgive me for my sins, help me. The shackles of sin and shame and guilt dropped away, and I wrote a letter to the sheriff that arrested me. Turned out he was a deacon in a church. He came, they dismissed the charges, and I was released. And on the way back to where we had been arrested, where we had threw our backpacks full of drugs into the woods running from the police, I told the young girl that I had gotten arrested that we don't need to go to Egypt. I found there's an absolute truth. There's a God, and he had a son. And she began to weep. She said, I wasn't sure how to tell you. There was a Bible in my jail cell, and I gave my life to Christ, and I wasn't sure what I was going to tell you when we saw each other in court. What could I do? I married her. Deborah, would you stand up? Pastors, someone in a church like yours who probably never ever introduced anybody to Jesus, paid for a Bible, that spent 7 years in a hotel before it found its way to that jail cell. And when I gave my life to Christ, he got me. My 5 children have been raised Christians and all serve God. My 9 children will do the same. My brother I led to Christ, and he's a children's pastor. I led my sister to Christ, and I'm working through it. My sister-in-law just came to Christ. It's 38 years we're praying for him. She just gave her life to Christ recently. I want you to know something. When I get to heaven, I'm going to find the person that paid for that Bible, and I'm going to introduce him to all of the people I've led to Christ. I'm an outreach pastor. I don't spend my time picking fleas off of sheep in the congregation. I'm talking to lost people all the time. My wife wanted me to be a Gideons, but I backslid and became a pastor. And Gideons, it may be a thankless experience at times when you're out there sharing and delivering Bibles and moving around, but I'm going to get to heaven and I'm going to find that Gideon who's long dead, I'm sure. He's sitting up there with Lazarus and Abraham, and when I find him, I'm going to kiss his feet and tell him my family never knew what I knew because Gideons cared enough to put a Bible in a place where I would run into it in the highways and the byways of America. And it grabbed my soul and hasn't let go. And now I long for an opportunity to stand before Gideons and say, what you do makes a difference. It isn't millions of Bibles, it's millions of people that meet the Savior. We're transformed, and we're all the time finding new ways to say, pastors, this isn't a small ministry, it's life-changing. And Gideons, what you do makes a difference. So me and my children and my grandchildren, we salute you. Thank you for serving God in such a meaningful ministry.
want to give them a special gift. One that's unique. One that will last. But in a world of temporary, what can you give? Give a Gideon card, the greeting card that changes everything. Gideon cards are beautiful expressions of faith, hope, and love. But Gideon cards give you a unique way to share a gift of lasting significance with those you love. Unlike other greeting cards, Gideon cards are actually free. And when you give a Gideon card, you donate scriptures that God can use to change lives for eternity. And the process is simple. Choose your card, write your note, send your card, and donate Bibles. Each year, Gideons place some 90 million scriptures into the hands of people in over 195 countries, all over the world. People who need the kind of change that only God can bring.
I picked up a Gideon's Bible and read it and became immediately peaceful in a way that I had never experienced at the time.
The next occasion you have to honor someone special, give them a Gideon card and change a life. Give a voice to your faith in times of joy and sorrow, reflection and celebration, prayer and thanksgiving. Share a Gideon card to express your faith, encourage others, and change lives for eternity. So don't wait. Give the greeting card that changes everything. Send a Gideon card online at sendtheword.org or select a card from the display in your church. Either way, you can give a special gift that's unique and will last. Gideon cards, send the word and change a life. Visit sendtheword.org today. Gideon cards, send the word and change a life.